It's okay. No problem. If that's okay, I will manage, I will juggle. So thank you so much. It's our first webinar for Africa, and we know that it is small, but we know we are going to grow, and the next one is going to be better. So seeing the 46 of you already is a great thing for all of us, and thank you so much for making it happen. So I'm going to be sharing with you how we are translating evidence in the drug demand reduction field into practice. The most important thing is for us to understand, why are we interested in all these processes? Is because we want to enhance the practice in the field of drug demand reduction. I know in many of our countries, we have seen that programs that are running that are supposed to be doing prevention, treatment, recovery support, prevention education are not necessarily supported by evidence, and therefore we are not very successful. So the whole idea is that we can be able to translate what has been documented as evidence-based and pass it over, disseminate it to our countries, disseminate it to our societies, so that we can then improve the practice to be evidence-based. And really, there are many ways of doing this, but I want to share what we, like I said, has evolved as a model for us that we can use in Africa. Now, this is an interesting slide, and I'm asking, why do we need to worry? I think as Africa, we need to worry. We are a big continent with over 1.3 billion people, over 50 countries. We stretch from the Atlantic all the way to the Pacific. We have to the Indian, and we have got a lot of young people in our populations and many beautiful countries like you can see here. And I hope I have captured your country. And if I haven't, just forgive me. Next time I will make sure it's included. And UNODC in 2021 has said that there is a crisis looming in Africa, because by 2030, it's estimated that we may have as many as 40% of people using substances. And many of these people are young people. This is because we have a higher population growth. And at the same time, UNODC in 2022 says that majority of the people treated with drug use disorders in Africa are under 35 years. This causes us to worry because this is our prime population. This is the productive working population. So unless we run and do something, there is actually a crisis in our continent. And therefore, we are here. And I'm happy that we have all chosen to be here, because by being here, it shows our commitment to want to make a difference in our continent. Now, we have limited capacity in Africa in terms of evidence-based practice. We have less numbers of professionals. We have, even the few professionals we have do not have adequate capacity to be able to address issues of substance use disorders in our continent. And therefore, we want to disseminate evidence-based practice that can translate into provision of what we are calling a continuum of services, so that our clients, all the way from prevention, from treatment, recovery, and even public health interventions, are based on evidence-based. We do note that some efforts have been happening at the global level, supported by the INL of the US State Department. Many of us, how we got to know each other is because of some of these programs. Some of us have been trained by Colombo Plan Drug Advisory. I have been hearing some of you saying you have covered UTCs, you have covered UPCs, you want to do more UTCs, you want to do more UPCs. It's because of the initiative of INL and the partner organizations. And we are thankful, including the International Society of Substance Use Professionals, that is ISAP, which has got chapters in our countries. And I do hope if your country does not have an ISAP chapter, you can also inquire about how you can have one. Now, through this curriculum development, we have got several types of curriculum. We have the universal prevention curriculum. We have the universal treatment curriculum. We even have another curriculum called Recovery Coach. We have another one for treating women. We even have another one for treating children. And all these are working towards building capacity. But one of the observations is that many of them are disseminated through short courses. And the challenge with short courses is the sustainability of that model. And therefore, through ICU DDR, a more sustainable model has been identified, which taps into universities. Many of us are coming from universities here. We know that we already have infrastructure for education and training. We have lectures, we have lecture halls, we have ICT infrastructure, we have mechanisms for developing curriculums. Some of us even have other additional resources that support education and training. And therefore, we come with a resource that can be tapped into in terms of drug demand reduction. So ICU-DDR comes in to network universities like ourselves so that we can promote drug demand reduction, so that we can promote transfer of knowledge and adaptation of this evidence-based knowledge. And how we do this is by developing university-based academic programs. I know in your different universities, you actually have programs of different types. And the question we're asking ourselves is, can we convince our universities to also develop programs that are addressing drug demand reduction? So that is the critical role we have. And right here now is the critical slide I'm going to be talking about. We have developed an approach that we are using in Africa that we call a model that has proved useful and relevant for our context. It is based on a couple of years of working with each other. And so I felt that I need to share this model, because by sharing this model, you can be able to see where you are and where you can plug in and begin working with the rest of us, particularly if you are a new member of ICU-DDR. So there are 6 steps here. The first one begins by identifying strategic university faculty. The second step is developing what we call conducting a walkthrough, which I'll be talking about. And the third stage is what we call needs assessment. The fourth stage is capacity building. The fifth stage is the development of the programs themselves. And the sixth stage is about evaluating this program. So I'm going to run through these steps and see whether we can communicate and understand who we are as ICU-DDR Africa. So we begin by identifying strategic faculty. Strategic faculty really means you are a person that is in a university setting or a training institution that is interested in promoting the drug demand reduction agenda through dissemination. And sometimes we identify such people through having contact persons in specific universities or countries. Sometimes we actually identify them through collaborations with ISAP Kenya, through partnerships with Colombo Plan. Once we do that, then we create an interest in these people. I happened to have been identified through Colombo Plan myself. I got to be trained by Colombo Plan in the UTCs. And in the process, when I came back to my university, I got interested in developing the DDR academic agenda. And so that is how I steered the development of an academic program in my university. So this is the first step. And so if you just joined ICU-DDR, and I know I had this conversation just last week with someone from Ethiopia, a team from Ethiopia that is interested in, they have joined ICU-DDR as an institution, and they're wondering what next. And I had to take them through these processes. And so they need to identify a critical team of faculty that is interested in developing academic programs. Now, the team can be from one institution, but it can also be from a group of institutions. And we can develop these programs as individuals and universities or as collaborating universities. In the second step, we call it the walkthrough. Now, the walkthrough is an intense training of the UPC or UTC. The purpose is to build capacity of faculty on what we are calling evidence-based curriculum. And so we take them through the UTC courses, and we take them through in a very intense way. The reason being, there's a basic assumption that a university faculty is not at the level of everyone else. They are at a level where they can find knowledge for themselves. What we are doing is walking them through that material, and they can go and interact with it more and see how to use it to develop programs. So this walkthrough targets faculty. It can be conducted in a physical way or a virtual way, and it can be supported by ICU-DDR or other partner organizations. It can even be supported by individual countries and universities. I do remember that when we did the walkthrough in my country, we partly supported it as a university. And I remember we did it in collaboration with a university in Botswana called Boitekanelo. And we did it with another organization. So the idea is working together, because when you collaborate, you cut on costs. It's good to note that as Africa, we have held several walkthroughs at the continental level. So we did one with many countries, over 10 countries, and we're able to do a walkthrough very successfully, and we're able to build capacity. We also have had a few isolated cases of individual countries and universities, and I'm emphasizing the role of collaborations. In the third stage, we do what is called a needs assessment. So it's one thing to have the material of UTC, It's another thing to have capacity to develop programs. So the two levels of needs assessment, one is at the university level, the second is at the faculty level. At the university level, the goal is to identify, does the university need really that program? And if it does need a program, what's the nature of program that is required? At what level do you need to pitch that program? Who do you need to make a student in that program? So this is really a needs assessment at the university level. It requires you to engage stakeholders internally within the university, but also externally, especially in the potential job market, where the graduates are likely to practice. And it does require you to have a tool. And I'm happy to announce that currently, South Africa has developed such a tool, and they have actually piloted it in their country with many universities. And therefore, those of us who are interested in doing this kind of needs assessment to see whether your university does require the program that we are talking about, we can actually help you to access this tool from South Africa and use it for your own needs in your country or university. Now, the second level of needs assessment is at the faculty level. Now here, we have already established that our university does need a program of drug demand reduction. But now we need to know who is going to develop that program. It's the faculty. Does the faculty have the capacity to develop programs? Many of us joined universities and found existing programs. So we didn't even know who developed them and how. We know that the whole process of developing an academic program is extremely rigorous because the university has a threshold, professional bodies have a threshold, statutory bodies have a threshold which we must meet before a program in a university is accredited. And therefore, we know that we do need to build capacity of faculty, and this emerged out of needs assessment that we did. And therefore, a tool has been developed again in Africa, which is very helpful in terms of assessing the level of faculty in terms of their capacity to now develop an academic program. So again, if you're at this level, you can use that tool to assess whether your faculty is able to develop an academic program. And if they're not, then the next step is for you. The next step is capacity building for program development. So here, we want to equip faculty with the knowledge, skills, and competencies that they require to be able to develop a university-based academic program. Like we have said, the university-based academic program has rigor because it has standards. And therefore, this course has been developed again by ICU DDR Africa to be able to be used as a resource that can be able to train faculty that are interested in learning how to develop a university-based academic program. It is titled Developing Drug Demand Reduction Academic Programs, a Practical Guide. It's a very practical course. It has 7 modules. It has been piloted in the last year, and it's actually available online to any faculty that is interested. And the most exciting part of it is that it can be self-paced. You can actually learn at your pace, and you can enter at the different levels. These are the 7 modules. For example, module 1 is how you integrate stakeholder feedback into the academic program. So if that is your area of weakness, you can choose to only study that module and you end there and even get a certificate for that. The second module is how to develop the program goals. So you're developing an academic program for DDR. How do you define the goals? How do you define the objectives? How do you ensure that those objectives are in tandem with the university goals and objectives? That's a second module. The third module is how to actually develop the content of the program or to determine the nature of the program, the level at which you will set it, the population you target. The fourth level is the actual development of the courses and course material. The fifth module is about how to now make sure that your program aligns with the university requirements, professional body requirements, statutory body requirements. In number 6, module 6, it empowers you to know how to mobilize resources for developing and implementing the program. And finally, module 7 empowers you to be able to monitor and evaluate your academic program so that you can continuously improve it. Now, the best part about this course is that you can actually select the modules you feel interested in as faculty, as a university, and you can take them using a self-paced approach. You can study them online, and that then means that you can build your capacity to be able to now develop a program. And then we move to the next step. So in the next step, number 5, is the development and implementation of the programs themselves. The first part is the development of the program. So you need to move to develop an actual course in your university, but you can also do it collaboratively as a team of universities. And ICU-DDR can play a role here to link you up with faculty that have done this before, that can mentor your university in developing such a program. The second part is the implementation. Now, implementation does require resources. Sometimes it's human, sometimes it's academic, sometimes it's technical. And ICU-DDR, again, can support you in a couple of ways. They can facilitate you to access online materials. There are modules that have been developed with support from INL by Colombo Plan. So they can facilitate you to access those materials, the UTC manuals, the UPC manuals, and that then means that the issue of academic resources will be addressed. They can also link you up with university faculty from other areas that have the expertise that can teach your course. So if, for example, you're starting a course and you're worried that we don't have faculty that can teach, ICU-DDR can link you up with faculty from other universities that have expertise to help you. And of course, you can take advantage of online learning, because with online learning, then it means a faculty in Nigeria can support a faculty in Kenya and vice versa because of the online facility. And in the final step of number 6 is when we now evaluate the programs we have already developed. Now, this is the level for those that have already developed programs and they're already implementing them. They want now to evaluate, are those programs having an impact on practice? Remember, when we started, we said, we want to translate evidence into practice in the field. So we want to ask ourselves, we have graduated students, they have gone into the job market. Are they impacting on quality of services? Is there better prevention? Is there better treatment? Is there better recovery support? Are there better public health interventions that are evidence-based because of what we have done? So in general, have we improved client outcomes? Now, this requires us to get information using multiple sources of data, including what we call, a school exit survey. We need to talk to the job market and get their feedback. We need to talk to our graduates and get their feedback. So all this is needed. We still have not developed a tool, but we do hope that those of us who are at the stage where we are graduating students already, we can actually pull together and we can develop this tool and we can assess the impact our programs are having in the job market. Now, the other important activities that we are doing or we do as ICU-DDR is actually research-related activities, conferences, workshops, and seminars and webinars like we're having. The idea is networking. We could actually pull together as different countries, as different universities, and do a collaborative research. For example, I am now saying that those of us that have graduated students and have programs, it's time we pulled together and we did a joint research to assess the impact of our programs. If those of us who are at the level of doing needs assessment, we can actually say we want to do collaborative needs assessment, and we pull together and we do a collaborative research to check whether the needs for developing academic programs in Botswana are similar to Sudan, are similar to Libya, are similar to Egypt. Those are the thoughts that we have when we are talking about collaboration. So the key thing is, as we think about way forward, we need to ask ourselves the following questions. We do need DDR programs in our countries for sure, if we are going to beat the crisis that we have just said about 2030. We need to make sure that at least every country has one program where people can go to study if they needed to study. We recognize that we are at different levels. Our needs are very unique as African countries and universities, and our needs are very diverse. So what we require is to sit and look at ourselves, identify our needs, identify the level at which we can plug in that whole list of steps, reach out to ICU-DDR and plug in at that level. We want to emphasize that for us to move to the next level, we must collaborate, 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 and collaborate. I wish to acknowledge the many partners that have made it possible for us to reach where we are as Africa, ICU-DDR, all the way from INL, ICU DDR, ISAP, Colombo Plan DAP, the African Union, the African leadership, which is extremely instrumental and which I wish to mention here. Myself, Martin, who is right here as the vice chair, Rihanna from South Africa, who's the secretary. We have Morekwe from Botswana, who coordinates the southern region. We have Rania from Egypt that coordinates the northern region. We have Kokonya from the east that coordinates the eastern region. We have Moses Zaudu that coordinates the western region. I want to thank every one of you for the role that you have played. I recognize every one of us, the individual countries and the participants that have joined in today. Your enthusiasm is what drives us. And I keep saying that together, we're going to achieve more. So I want to stop there and thank you so much for the opportunity. Over to you, Martin.
Thank you so much, Beatrice, for that excellent presentation. I want to believe that participants have been well informed about the agenda of ICU DDR in Africa and what we have been able to do within the past few years. One of the takeaways from this presentation is that every university definitely have a place to start from, looking at the systems that have been developed. So there might not be need to reinvent the wheel. We can always look at what have been done, what other universities have been able to do, and look at where to key in, or from where to key in. And I like that aspect, which is about collaboration, because the truth about it is that without collaboration, it becomes difficult to achieve the goal of drug demand reduction generally, both in the area of prevention, research, especially that is the bedrock of delivering evidence-based intervention. So I want to believe participants or colleagues here do sure we have questions on the chat box, but if you do have questions, please indicate by raise of hand so that we can give you an audience to speak or ask your questions. Kerry, please, as my co-moderator, let's look out for questions, and let's also look out for colleagues who possibly may have raised their hands to ask one or two questions. Thank you. Kerry, you may also want to say something before we take the questions. Thank you once again, Beatrice.
Yes, thank you, Martin. Thank you, Beatrice, and to Kevin. It's wonderful. It's exciting to see that, as Beatrice said, with such short notice to join, it's really clear to me the passion and the interest and the commitment that we have over 50 people who came regardless of the quick turnaround. So it's clear to me how committed you all are to this. Many of you I've worked with, and I know that is always my experience with you. Housekeeping wise, if you haven't, please click on the link and register so we know who attended. And if you have a question, you can raise your hand or you can put it in the chat, and we would love to give you an opportunity to ask things of your local leadership or of the sort of global leadership, since we're here as well. So far, I don't see questions, but I do see some compliments for you, Beatrice, of course.
Thank you. I see some hands, Kerry.
Yeah.
Right.
I see two hands there. So Peter, Adediboya, take it off from there.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Peter,
Martin.
go ahead with your question.
thank you so much, Dr. Martins, for moderation and moderating this section. And I also want to thank and congratulate Beatrice for that brilliant presentation. So I think there's need for us to collaborate, I've already said, and I think that in Africa as a whole, there's need for us also to collaborate among ourselves and also reach out to other people. So I agree with you on that note, and also want to say thank you and congratulations for that brilliant presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I think.
Okay. Thank you, Peter, for that.
Martin, you're muted, sorry.
Okay, yes, I thought, okay, Rotimi, you are next. Please, your question, Rotimi Aroji. Then after Rotimi, Abderrahman. Rotimi, please go ahead with your question.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, my camera cannot come on because I'm in dark because of the power in my area. Thank you so much, Beatrice, for the presentation, and thank you, Dr. Martins, for supporting. Actually, I wanted to clarify something, which I don't know whether it fits into what ICDDR can do. Just of recent, from inception, we have been pursuing policies of drug demand reduction in the transport sector, which we believe has been in the exclusion when it comes to stakeholders in drug demand reduction. But fortunately, and by the grace of God, we have successfully put in some clauses, some prayers in the national transport policy, which just ended in Abuja. And part of it is that there will be employment of people in mental health and drug and substances in the transport space. Now it is now in the policy. And then when we were pushing that with the mindset that we're going to bring in people from this ICDDR, ISOP, and the other places. So that's a plus. So I actually wanted to know whether whether there's a place for collaboration in reality, because you just assumed, and we never spoken with you or spoken with anybody on this, because so many of the transport sector institutions, like the professional bodies, they have been teaching transport, but they have not been teaching drug and substance or mental health. And then part of that has been also approved at the National Council that we could collaborate with, we could infuse curriculums. So now there's no competence in the transport sector on the drug and mental health curriculum or the drug and substance. So I am also thinking that ICDDR can come in to that gap and help in developing curriculum for this space, and then bringing some people, like people that have been graduated now in this space, into the transport space, because it's actually open right now. So I just wanted to find out if there is room in this area. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roche, for that question. I want to believe that Beatrice is taking notes. Let's quickly take a question from Abder. Thank you. Abderrahman, please go ahead with your question or comments. Abderrahman, can you hear me?
Yes, Abderrahman needs to unmute.
It doesn't look like. Abderrahman, please unmute. Okay. We'll possibly get back to Abderrahman. So Beatrice, go ahead with your response. After Beatrice, then Farida we speak on her question. Thank you. Beatrice, go ahead.
Thank you, Martin. And I think much of the first question by Peter was emphasizing the role of collaboration. Thank you, Peter. I always believe in that together we can achieve more. And we shall continue collaborating with all of us. The second question was about the transport sector. I'm really quite excited to hear that, because even in my own country, there is havoc in the transport sector because of substance use. And therefore, anything that can bring sanity is very important. And so as you speak, then that it inspires me also to think about that. Now, the issue of whether there can be a curriculum, one of the things that I want to emphasize about the module that we talked about, or the practical guide for developing programs that we have said is available, it helps you see how you can adapt this material for the different types of needs. So if, for example, you want to pick some of it and you do partial adaptation, Fatima, kindly mute yourself. So you can actually pick sections of that material and you can infuse it into a curriculum, any curriculum that you choose to, that is partial, adaptation. You can also pick and create courses or units that you can also integrate into a program. You can also pick and develop an entirely new course. So you will notice in that course, we talk about 3 ways of actually integrating, 3 ways of adapting. You can create a whole new course. You can create or a whole new program. You can also create a course and infuse into other courses within another program. So like that's what I'm thinking. You have the transport curriculum. You can actually pick courses that are relevant and infuse into that curriculum. You can also select topics and infuse into an existing curriculum. And so, yes, it is possible with what we have. It's a versatile curriculum. It is possible, and I do hope we can converse beyond this meeting to see how we can take that to another level. So thank you very much. Over to you, Martin.
Yes, thank you so much, Beatrice, for that response. I actually said earlier that Farida will speak, but before then, let's quickly look at questions from the chat box. This is coming from Dr. Awad Salil from Nigeria. Of course, he is appreciating your excellent presentation. He's asking, as part of curriculum development by this university, what are steps that need to be taken if we want to include materials, or if they want to include materials from the UTC into curriculum for postgraduate studies and master's in addiction. So I think this is part of what you spoke about earlier on. You may also want to highlight on that. Then as another question, so I take the two together. This is from Dr. Charles, and is asking about the experience of those who have been in this practice before, have been executing these addiction programs before in the university system or in a professional setting, their experiences. Though some aspects of it seem not to be very clear, talking about
Carrie, did we lose Martin? Maybe you can take over, Carrie. Please unmute yourself.
Certainly. Let's see what. Okay, so we have a question in the chat. Okay, so they would like to ask about your experience among those that have had this program before in terms of client's outcome, us who have some general information are facing with challenges of relapses? You want to speak to that, Dr. Beatrice?
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So I'll answer that and the earlier question about integrating into master's programs, if I got it right. And yes, indeed, I love the UTCs and the UPCs because they're extremely versatile. You can integrate portions of them. You can integrate the whole of them. And you can even add your own, homegrown material. For example, when we adapted the UTC ourselves, there was the UTC basic, which had, I think it's 8 levels. So we picked the 8. We also added the UTC advanced, the course on family, because in our country, family involvement is really critical. So we picked that. We also picked the recovery coach because a big chunk of our treatment processes in our country has to do with the community support. So we picked that as well. And then we integrated with our own university requirements. For example, that research methods must be taught to every postgraduate student, that a project must be part of a postgraduate project, a very intensive practicum. And so that's the beauty about this material. You can integrate it in many different ways as is necessary for your unique context. The second question is about those of us who have had programs. Yes, this is a very good question, and it speaks to the 6th step that I talked about. That those of us that have had programs need to sit together and actually develop a tool that we're going to use to document the impact. We may speak from informal feedback, like I will speak from informal feedback. We have graduated a cohort, and part of what we have seen is that when they went out for their practicum, the feedback we got was extremely positive. A lot of new things they went to introduce in their treatment settings were received very positively, made a big impact as per their supervisors. But we have not documented this using a tool that we can be able to say that we have solid evidence to say that. And that's where I'm saying, for those of us at that level, that is the task for us going forward. But the key thing is, yes, we must continuously evaluate what we are doing and continuously support it with evidence. But I can assure you, using informal feedback, yes, we are seeing a big difference. In fact, our graduates have already been taken in. One is a psychiatrist, the other one was two are psychologists, the other one was a person, a social worker, 2 of them. So they've all been taken in and they're making a very great difference where they are, and we're seeing impact, but we need to measure it in a way that is objective and that we can speak about it with numbers. So thank you very much. Over to you, Carrie.
So Dr. Harry has a question. How well can, oh, my question just moved, it just moved away. How well can ICU DDR collaborate with our gatekeepers like NUC in Nigeria and other countries to develop the courses from the undergraduate level in most general core courses?
Would you like to say that again?
Sure. How can ICU DDR collaborate with our gatekeepers like NUC in Nigeria and other countries to develop the courses from the undergrad level in most core general courses?
Thank you very much. And I will answer that question from a broad perspective. In every country, there are the people that you think are critical. For example, I have seen in our country, primary healthcare providers are critical because everybody someday or other visits them. And so part of our question is, how can we bring them on board? And one of the things we have been doing is actually using advocacy. And so we cannot divorce our work from advocacy as a critical avenue that we are going to use to bring on board the critical players that we think. I one time had a chance to speak in a conference for our School of Medicine. It was called Patient-Centered Care. And I made a presentation on the role of counseling psychology in patient-centered care. And I remember it was received with so much enthusiasm, and they said, so do you think we should be training our doctors some courses in counseling and our nurses? And I said, precisely. So I do think that we can begin to speak to these people. So when we hear there's a conference for psychiatrists, a conference for doctors, a conference for pharmacists, a conference for whoever, let us take ourselves there. Let us make a presentation. It's part of advocacy. When we get a chance to speak to policymakers in our country in each of these areas, let us go and make a statement about drug demand reduction. I have actually become a very serious advocate now, even in family meetings. I throw in a statement about drug demand reduction. And so I think we can make advocacy a daily part of what we do. And that way we can bring on board more people, including those gatekeepers, and then we can help them see how to integrate sections of these materials into their programs that they are already covering. Thank you. Kerry?
Okay, I don't see any additional questions in the chat. There are a couple hands up, and I'm not sure if those folks have gotten a chance to speak yet or not. Faraday, did you have a question?
Yes, we can have
Not yet.
Farida now.
Wonderful.
Okay. Greetings, everybody. I hope
question,
you can
please.
hear me.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello. Okay. Okay. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Beatrice. My comment or question goes directly to you, and it's related to the practical guide on developing DDR programs, which probably you are not just probably you developed and you have implemented, and you have developed a program which I think has been successful or is succeeding. You mentioned that it's available through ICU DDR. We can get this content and use it on our own. My thinking is many of us who are attending today, or from what I see even on the WhatsApp group and the interactions from members, we are at that level where we would like to develop a program, or we are lacking these programs in our universities. Do you think, as somebody who has done this, you have this program in your university, you've seen how it works, do you think we would benefit better if we had a training with an instructor? As you know, I'm sure it would have a number of us being part of this training with you or anybody else, or with somebody else who knows this. And you take us through the series. I think you mentioned that it's something like 7 weeks if we were to be consistent. I think we would benefit better or more, because I have a feeling we are many here who would love to have this knowledge, and having an instructor definitely would make a difference. Yeah, that's my thought. Thank you.
Kerry, can I respond? Thank you.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you, Farida, for that question. Actually, it is so critical that you have asked that question for 2 reasons. Developing academic programs is not easy. It's extremely rigorous. We know many of us that have started and given up halfway. We know many that developed and they were never approved by their universities or by professional bodies or by their regulators. So we must get it right from the start. And that's the purpose of that course. And therefore, your request is very noble and I think very, very sensible, because part of how that course has been developed, and a good number of the people in this class, in this meeting, have been in that class, it's extremely collaborative. So it works best when we collaborate with each other, because there's a lot of group work, there is take home to do, and you work on it together, and you come and discuss and present. So yes, that is the super model. But if the super model cannot be achieved, then we can have the half a cake. And so we are going to think about that. I'm going to be consulting with Kevin and Carrie to see how we can make this a part of what we work on in the coming year, to at least hold one training for those that have newly joined and that are keen on developing programs. And so what we will probably do, like I said, we love to do needs assessments. After this, we will probably, and if you have all registered in the chat link that Kerry has given you, we can actually reach out to you and we can give a needs assessment tool which is already existing to assess your capacity needs. And then using that, we can now justify the need to roll out that training for those of you that will be interested. Thank you. Over to you.
Okay, thank you so much. Did we have any additional questions? Has everyone registered for us? I put the link in again. If not, if you have registered and you don't have a question, then maybe we're ready to wrap up.
Okay. Maybe close to that, there's a question here on the chat box by Bolaji. Bolaji wants to know if you can share what you have in your curriculum so as to see how it can be adapted. So Bolaji wants to know if the curriculum you have can be reviewed and adapted. I also want to believe that there is a process for that, but let me also leave that question to Beatrice to respond to more appropriately. Thank you. Beatrice, over to you.
Thank you, Martin, and thank you for that question, Bola. And certainly a good question. We love to offer mentorship. At the same time, we love to acknowledge the uniqueness of every country and every university. So as we think about this, we would actually pull together all these different resources. We would do needs assessment of your specific university and specific context. We would then look at what are the needs that we need to speak into as we develop the curriculum. And then we would be asking ourselves, is there something we can adapt from the UTC? Is there something we can adapt from the UTC? What about the recovery coach? What about what we have in our university? So that is the most integrated approach that I would recommend, but certainly I am available to support you on that one. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, are we ready to wrap up?
Okay, so let me just look at some few comments here. There's a few comments here. I can see email address, requesting for the slide. I also want to believe that registered, we already have your email address. And once the decision on sharing the slide is made, it will be sent to every participant. So we already have your email address, but if you have not registered, please look at the Google form there, click on it and register so that we have your email address in case we have, in case we are sharing the slide, and also if we have any other quick information we need to pass across. So if you have not registered, once again, please use the Google form and register. So I think as it is now, it looks like, okay, someone is asking, do we put on our cameras for a photo? That is an indication that we might be close to the time to wrap up. Okay, maybe there's one last question here. Beatrice and Kerry, let's quickly attend to it. You say, dear colleagues, thank you for the webinar. It has been great to acquire the information from, okay. Okay, so more of words of commendation. So thank you, Beatrice, thank you, Kerry, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think at this stage we can begin to wrap up. Samuel requested if we can put on our camera so that we take a photo. So if you're comfortable with that, I think all of us ordinarily should be comfortable, except for those who possibly are multitasking and for such reason might not be able to turn on their camera. So if you are comfortable with that, please, let's see your face and can capture all of us.
Oh, it's so good to see so many of you. Hi, Marikwe. Okay, we ready? I'm gonna
Okay.
take 1, 2, 3, cheese. All right. Oh, one more. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. So before we wrap up, I want to believe that this session has been very useful and beneficial to all of us. And I want to assure you that definitely it's not a one-off thing. It's going to be sustained, and we're going to be doing this at least maybe 3 times in a year. I want to believe that subsequently we'll have opportunity to invite other colleagues who have also done so much work in this area to speak to us on related topics. Before we invite Kerry to say maybe 1 or 2 things, let us hear from Beatrice again, the speaker and the coordinator for Africa. She may have 1 or 2 things to say in addition to
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Kerry, for the support.
Presentation as our leader. Over to you, Beatrice.
Thank you. Thank you, Martin. I love the resilience despite the challenges in network. That's what we are made of in Africa. So thank you, Martin. Thank you, Kerry, for the support, and Kevin. Thank you, Samuel, behind the scenes working very hard to make sure that things run well and disseminate our flyer to make sure that we all got communication about this webinar. And thank you to every one of you that responded so promptly in 2 days. You won't believe this is a webinar organized in 2 days, from Saturday, Sunday, and today is Tuesday. You're just amazing. You're awesome. That's what makes us Africa. Thank you so much. Like Martin has said, this is really the beginning of it all. The working year for ICU-DDR, I learned, begins in October. So the first quarter was ending in December, and we were determined to make sure we had our webinar for the first quarter. So the next quarter, we're going to have another one, and the next quarter, another one, and another one. So we're going to have 4. And the idea is we want every region to present. So I come from East African region. So the next quarter, we're going to have someone from another region, and that way we are interacting, all of us. Besides the webinars, we definitely are going to work towards a workshop that we are yet to finalize with ICU-DDR office about if we can have 1 continental walkthrough. And of course, the request that has been made about 1 continental training for the drug demand reduction capacity building. So we want to pool resources because they are really scarce, but together we can achieve more. But at the same time, I want to request you, if in your home countries, in your home regions, you know partners that have got similar agenda, that are like-minded, and we can pair up, please do let ICU-DDR know. You just need to do an email to the director of ICU-DDR. You can copy me, and we can sit together and have a conversation to see how we can collaborate. So it's not a one-man show. We work together to make it happen. And as always, I thank the leadership team. I thank you, Morekwe from South. I thank you, Moses from West. I thank you, Rania from North. I thank you, Kokonya from the East. I thank you, Martin, my Vice Chair, Rihanna, Secretary, and Moses Dakwak, who's our communication expert and develop our beautiful flyer that you saw around and has been making sure we smile to the camera to take a picture. So we really appreciate all of you. To Kerry and to Kevin, I cannot thank you enough. This is Christmas, and I'm sure we've pulled you out of Christmas arrangements to come and be part of this, and we really do not take that for granted. To every one of us, it's a Christmas week. We should be shopping and traveling with family. We have sacrificed to be here for the greater family of the people that we serve. I don't take that for granted. I want to acknowledge you as the hero for Africa. Thank you, Martin, the great moderator. You have done it well. Over to you, and Merry Christmas to every single one of us, and a Happy New Year.
So Kerry, over to you, please.
Okay, well, thank you all again. And if you or your university are not a member yet of ICU DDR, you can certainly reach out to Beatrice or myself, but also there is an easy form on our website, icuddr.org, to fill out. And if you have questions, or if someone at your university has questions about who we are and why are we joining this, then we're happy to talk with them and help assuage any concerns. So thank you. Have a great rest of the year, and we'll see you again in 2023.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.